All right, so what's going on, guys? So in today's video, we are finally going to begin the Integra build. Today, we're just going to start with the engine, the K24. We're going to get this rebuilt or refreshed, as to say. We're pretty much doing the same thing that we did to the Galant block, whereas I'm doing a new head gasket, ARP head studs, and a new oil pump on this engine. Like I said, just a basic refresh to make it a little bit more reliable. Now, I'm trying to make this a short video because installing head studs is pretty simple, but I did want to document it for you guys anyway. So, of course, if you haven't already, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Let's get to it. All right, guys, so now you can see I have cleaned the top of the block, all the mating surfaces. It does look pretty good. All right, so now we can go ahead and prepare to install our head studs. Now, what I'm going to do, of course, is chase the threads, and I'm going to do the same thing I did when I did the Galant block. I took this bolt here, just use a cutoff wheel, and cut a little slit in it, and that will pick up the dirt when I run this down into these holes. Because my thread cleaner kit isn't actually long enough to get down to the threads, so I just used an old head bolt with that. I'm going to run these down here, and then we're going to install the head studs. Now, fortunately, I didn't pull out much. Didn't have any trouble getting any of them down there, so like my threads should be in good shape. And now I have the confidence knowing that they are clean, so we can go ahead and install the ARP head bolts. So there's the part number. So if you've purchased ARPs before, you know it comes with just a little bit of information that you will need. You should have the torque specs on here, a little bit of installation guide, of course, and then the assembly lube, which you will need to install this. Do not do this with oil. And of course our studs, washers, and nuts. So the first thing we're actually going to do is go ahead and clean all these off with soap and water. So if you look at these studs, you may notice they are flared on one end. That is the bottom, the side that goes into the block. You can also tell that because the bottom of it is flat, whereas the top of it, the area cut out to accept an Allen key. So all we need to do is just run these down there and get them hand tight. All right, so the studs are installed. I did use an Allen wrench to help me get them installed. I did go back several times and make sure they have about the same amount of tension on them, because you don't want to bottom these out with any sort of tool or anything. But now we can go ahead and install the new head gasket. So as I mentioned to you guys earlier, I am using an OEM head gasket for the K24. Here is the part number. This is a MLS head gasket, meaning multi-layered steel. You don't need to coat this with anything, even though I know in the past I have used copper spray. Now you just want to set this on here without any pressure. And it should fall on nice and smooth just like that. And of course now we're ready to install the cylinder head. And you do want to be careful, make sure you line this thing up, because you don't want the studs to scar the bottom of the head. I've got the washers and the nuts on all these. Now we just need to torque these down. ARP recommends a final torque spec of 80 foot-pounds, and of course we're going to do that in 3 increments. I'll probably do 30, 60, and 80 or something similar to that. I'll put the torque sequence up on the screen. Alright guys, so we're about to put the rockers on. I wanted to show a little tip that I did come across. Is that when you install these, go ahead and tie them with zip ties. So not only did I put a zip tie around each set, but then I zip tied the 2 sets together, that way to hold them up. Now, I tried this once before, tried to hold them in place. It did work, but it took like 10 minutes to get this thing on here. Whereas this way, I should just be able to drop it right on. So there we go. And of course, that makes it a lot easier. You can go ahead and get these seated into place. Of course, with those zip ties on there, that makes the process just take a couple seconds. Whereas before, like I said, I was fighting with it for probably 10, 15 minutes. Like just because they want to fall and there's little springs inside of here. Now we can go ahead and put our cams in. Now obviously this is a used motor. I'm just rebuilding. I didn't do a whole lot of cleaning on the journals or whatnot. But I'm going to go ahead and still put just some oil where the contact patches are going to be. Like I said, because this is a used motor, there's already some oil there. You really don't want to force them in there right now. Just kind of set them. And of course on the intake side, I've already gone ahead and installed the RBC gear. This is a 50-degree VTC gear. And if you don't know, what you can do to do that is put a wrench right here in the middle, and then you can use that to hold it while you loosen that. And that is a 17 millimeter. So now we're going to go ahead and put our cam caps back on. It's actually already numbered where your rockers were. It goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's pretty hard to mess up because your actual cam caps are numbered as well. So if you guys can make that out, of course, this is number 2 with an arrow, and the arrow is going to point towards your cam gears. So you can just drop that on. All right, so now what I'm gonna do is go ahead and get all these bolts hand tight just so I can get them started. But there is a specific torque sequence that you want to follow. All right, guys, so we're getting ready to time the motor. I've already got everything pretty much in position. Because what you're gonna need to do is make sure that these dots on this intake cam gear, you also have an arrow that points to the same spot the dot does. On the exhaust cam, you just have the single dot. You're gonna make sure both of those are pointing up. And then these lines here should be facing each other. Now they do make a tool to help you align that you stick on the back of the cams that actually insert into these two slots, and that'll help hold them in place. Now I don't have it, but what you can use is just so you can see what I did here was just insert these two drill bits into some holes, the holes on the back of the cam gears, and then go into these posts on the back. And what that'll do is help hold the cam gears where they need to be, or about where they need to be, because there is still some movement. You can see you have a little bit of play in that. All right, guys, so we got everything timed up. We look at the top gear, we can see that the dot is between the gold links on both sides. And at the bottom, it's going to be hard to see, of course, but our dot is in the middle of that gold link that's at the bottom. So you just have to take my word for that. Of course, I got the Drag Cartel or lower timing guide on it. This thing is here just in case something were to happen and we lose tension. The chain won't be able to fall off of this and it won't jump timing. Of course, I got the guides back in, and you may be wondering why I didn't get new guides. Well, it's because I was really trying to stick to a budget. Remember, I wasn't trying to do a complete rebuild, just a refresh. And from everywhere where I looked, this kind of seemed like one of those pieces that wasn't necessary to get brand new. Of course, we have a new timing tensioner. We have, of course, like I said, the new oil pump, the new K20 oil pump, and stuff like that. But for the most part, this is really just a refreshed motor. For now, it is what it is. I'm pretty comfortable. These don't do anything but kind of just support the chain on its travels. See, I've already removed the drill bits from the back of here, so that there is some tension on the timing chain. And now all we have to do is pull this pin here. And that's it. And all this is like a really long thumbtack. But now we have tension. See, the arm no longer swings anymore. And we should be good to go. So now what I'm going to do is go ahead and start turning the motor over. Just listen to make sure there's nothing hitting. There's no slack in the chain. And then we can go ahead and start buttoning this thing back up. All right, well, thank you for watching the video. If you like the video or have any questions for me, leave them down in the comments below. But like I said earlier, if you haven't already, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and I'll catch you guys later.